Now, this is Brandon Carmody with the latest from the LGBTQIA community on the GNR Radio Network.
You're listening to Gay News Radio. I'm Brandon Carmody. My next guest is the host of a popular podcast by Lavender Media titled Big Gay News. Please welcome Pierre Tardif.
Very nice to meet you, Brandon. Thank you for having me on the show.
You too. Yeah, you too. I like listening to your show. Now, before we talk about the show, though, I think our listeners would like to know a little bit about the man behind the microphone. I understand that you started the first Pride Festival and gay media in Quebec City 20 years ago. Could you tell us a little bit about that and the work that you did at the time?
I grew up speaking French in the city of Quebec, and I went to work in Toronto for a couple of summers and find a very lively community in Toronto. They had the gay media was vibrant, and I saw their Pride Festival, which is amazing. It's the number one attended event in all of Canada. So I came back to Quebec City and didn't find anything, didn't find the media or a Pride Festival, so I started them.
Oh, that's exciting. And then were you working with any organizations, like any GSAs, or were there any organizations, or were you starting it kind of grassroots from the ground up?
So I met a lot of volunteers from different organizations. There's an AIDS organization called Miel Québec. Lots of volunteers, dynamic people, beautiful community, and together we started the media and the Pride Festival, and it picked up right away. And today, 20 years later, it's a big event and it draws tourism, and I'm very happy for the Quebec City community.
That's exciting, Pierre. And do you still work with the Quebec Pride Festival to this very day?
No, I got an offer in Minneapolis in 1999 that I could not refuse because I wanted to learn English. I had started with Oprah on television. Lavender Media offered me to be their VP, so I joined them full-time. And I did ask at the time if we could work part-time together, but they said, we need you to focus completely on the Minnesota community. So I accepted, and so 16 years later, I'm still there.
Sure. So I understand that you might have taken over the hosting duties from a Wanda Wisdom / Bradley Trainer. When did you take over, and how did the transition go?
That's a good question. So Bradley has a fantastic radio voice. He's an amazing talent, and I've known him for many, many years. And we were all so excited when he joined Lavender Media as Wanda Wisdom. And after a couple of years with Wanda and Bradley being with Lavender, we started Big Gay News, and there was no one better than Bradley to be the voice of the news. And Bradley moved on and accepted a position at a radio station in the Twin Cities. So we had to find someone to take over. So we picked the foreigner, and I'm still doing it. So the heart is there, the talent not necessarily, but we do it with passion. And now we have a team with Shane Luke and Linda Rains and Andy Lean. I think we produce a good show, and we get good comments.
No, that's great. And part of the reason that I found you online is I just started getting into listening to podcasts. I became a podcast listener about a year ago, and I listen to CNN, all the cable news through podcasts, and I thought, well, where can I find some gay news or some LGBT news? And so I found you just by doing a random search, and there's nothing like Big Gay News. Would you agree? There's really nothing else out there like what you guys are doing.
Well, thank you. I think we were the first ones, and we're consistent. We just delivered what's the biggest gay news around the world, and we keep it short, and we have about 4 stories every day. So it's easy to listen to, and most people subscribe to several podcasts, and we like that a number of people are faithful to us, to Big Gay News, because it's just short and simple. It's a good service.
Fantastic. And it is. But I just wanted to ask you, have you or Lavender Media ever thought of expanding it or doing more shows that are part of Lavender that might include listener phone calls or panel discussions, or is that a little bit too far outside of what you guys offer as a service?
Oh, that's a good question. So we're just like everybody. We have ideas, and we have limited resources. So we have a staff of about 14 people, and I think I like the volume of what we're producing. We focus our efforts on Lavender Magazine. So Lavender Magazine's been it's been Minnesota's GLBT magazine for 20 years now, and we have multiple apps around the iPhone. I think we were the first app for a magazine, for a gay magazine, on the iPad, and then on the iPhone. So we go way back, and we try to adopt technology early on. And the Gay News is a support for Lavender Magazine to get something fresh and new for Lavender Media every day online. To go back to your question about if we plan on expanding the news, so we have ideas, and I like what you're doing with Gay News Radio. You seem to be all over the place.
Oh, thank you, Pierre. I just thought I don't want to say that we stole your ideas, because what you're doing is so specific. I mean, you're doing daily news, and like you said, if people have their own lives and their own busy hecticness, and they want to catch the top headlines in the LGBT world, you're absolutely right. They can tune in on demand, using the apps. I have an iPhone. I'm using an iPhone right now, so I listen to Big Gay News on there, and it's there 24 hours a day. So you're right. You guys are very, it doesn't take up a lot of listeners' time. But I think that there's also the demand of people that would like to see an alternative to cable news that sort of hits on the headlines of the day, from the non-LGBT world, and maybe listen to some commentary, the talking heads, and take live listener phone calls. And that's where I think there's a huge gap, where there's not a lot of programming like that.
Yeah, I commend you for identifying a need, and I agree with you. I love what you guys are doing out of Portland, and it's nice to be able to put a face on the people that do the news and activity in the gay community.
Well, thank you. You're welcome to come on anytime. We're always taking callers or contributors or guests. Part of what we like to do is to have an active discussion. As you know, this has been a historic year for LGBT rights, starting with the Supreme Court redefining marriage for all 50 states back in June. So we've come so far so fast, so to speak, that this is really a great time for us to continue to get the message out, isn't it?
I agree with you again. Thanks to people like you, it's possible, and there's so much pressure on politicians and all the actors that we reach equality, that it's happening. It's happening for us in North America, but there's still a lot of work to do outside of the continent.
Sure. Now, you were in New York today, is that right?
I'm in Buffalo today, yeah. I left Quebec City a couple of days ago, and I went to Ottawa, and I'm slowly making my way back to Minnesota.
Okay. I was wondering if you were in town to see the Pope. Just kidding. He's in the vicinity.
I'm sorry, I missed what you said. That I was here to see what?
I was asking if you were in town to see the Pope. The Pope is in town. He's in Washington and New York this week.
He's not too far away. I don't know if he's excited, but I'm so close.
Yeah, and there's a lot to consider there when we're still waiting for a clear message from the Pope on LGBT issues as well. But I wanted to ask you this. So where do you live? Do you live in Quebec? Where is your full-time residence, if that's okay to ask?
I live 8 months out of Minneapolis and the rest out of Quebec City mostly. And I love traveling.
Oh, very cool. Do you produce the show only in Minneapolis, or do you also produce it in Quebec, or is it like a TV series? Do you take some months off during the year?
We took, I think 3 years ago, we took a few days off during the holidays, and our listeners did not appreciate, so we try to be on all the time, every weekday. So wherever I'm at, we produce the show. It doesn't matter whether I'm on vacation in a different country or in Quebec or Minneapolis. We produce the show every day.
I think you just gave me a vision of my future. having only started our show 2 weeks ago, I noticed that already. You know, we're starting to do a weekly show, and people are emailing and tweeting us every day looking for content. It's like, oh my gosh, well, we're spending so much time just to do a weekly show, and there you are doing a daily show. I think that's what they want us to do, is they want something every day, even weekends.
Yes, well, it's easy to spread yourself thin too fast, but you surround yourself with excellent people, and then you work as a team, and everything becomes easier.
Very cool. So you invest a lot of time into the show, it sounds like. Are you currently involved in any LGBT activities, groups, or pursuing anything else outside of Lavender Media, or is that all your time?
Outside of Lavender Media, well, to tell you to be honest, when I started my own businesses and founded the first Pride Festival in Quebec and doing the magazine, that's all I did. That was my whole life. So I was happy to join Lavender Media because now it's just my work, and I can follow other passions, traveling, languages, and mostly playing hockey. So it's important to have a life outside of work. And the show itself, as the years go by, we're more efficient, and it takes less and less time to produce the show. So currently, we have a couple of people doing the research and finding the stories, and I'm only doing the recording part. And I would say that takes maybe a half hour every day.
Fantastic. We won't even go down into my numbers, but it's much less than half an hour. And I think you quote, because I listen to your show all the time, I think at the end of every episode you thank Linda Rains for compiling the stories. Isn't that right?
Yes, Linda and Shane find the stories depending on their schedule. But I'm curious as to how you're doing it. Do you have team members that collaborate and help you with everything you're doing?
Well, to be honest, the team members make up panelists for the most part, comprised of members that all have different experience in media. One of them is literally in charge of an LGBT college group that is possibly going to do live sessions for our show on video using state-of-the-art college equipment, and we're experimenting with how to get that on board. Another person writes for several publications, including the Huffington Post and Examiner. So getting them all together is going to be kind of like the talking heads on cable, and everyone is welcome to contribute their opinion. As long as there's no F-bombs, we're okay with whatever they say, as long as it's productive and non-offensive,
Exactly. I really hope that you guys are getting more and more successful. And it's important to be able to count on people who are passionate. And it sounds like you have a bunch of people around you who are passionate and will help you develop a very good service.
The reality of our current situation is that so many people want to be guests or be featured that it's piling up to where it can start to look like a daily workload. And I don't mean 5 days a week, more like 7. And so it depends how much time and resource I personally want to put into it. But I just want you to know, Pierre, and I want the listeners to know that my number one ambition on doing the show, basically taking what you're doing and expanding it to be kind of like the sister production in a way, I'm doing this for the betterment of the LGBTQIA population. Just to give you some back history, there was briefly gay marriage in Oregon 10 years ago, and I got married to a husband, and then the Oregon Supreme Court deemed those marriage licenses to be invalid and sent everyone a refund check with a nasty letter basically saying you were unmarried. And then that was the same year that Oregon passed basically an anti-hate legislation, writing in that marriages between one man and one woman. It was the same year that George Bush was reelected, and several states passed similar legislation. So I personally, at the personal level, have seen a long, bitter battle just for equal treatment or for some basic fairness to the LGBT community, and I've been waiting for it for a very long time. So when I saw what happened at the Supreme Court 2 months ago, that to me was a major sign that we're really turning the page. I think that we're really hitting the right message. The polling numbers showing record numbers of support for LGBT rights and gay marriage, but as we all know, there's a lot more to do when it comes to employment discrimination, equal housing. The trans community has been discriminated against at record levels. There's so much more to do, but we've come so far. Wouldn't you agree?
I agree with you, and congratulations on getting married and getting your marriage finally recognized.
Yes, thank you. Oregon now, I believe Oregon actually had passed marriage laws in 2013, so they had it before a lot of the other states. But the great thing about the Supreme Court case is it included all of the states that were left out.
Well, thank you for doing what you're doing. It sounds like you're doing it for the right reasons, for the advancement of the community. And Brandon, I took a few minutes last week when you reached out to look you up online, and I see you're a man of many talents. You're a musician, and you're an artist. And I think it's important you take the time to pursue all of your passions, not just the gay news and the show.
Oh, you were right. I appreciate that mention. I have written and directed some independent films. I love acting. I can't even tell you unless you're there on the set how you experience the kinetic energy of being, in front of the camera and the actors. I've done everything from a $600 small budget indie film on videotape to a $1 million Hollywood picture with, some Hollywood name actors that just happened to film in Portland. So I've done a lot of really exciting things, but it's so time-consuming. All of this is time-consuming. Every film and TV episode I work on, the average workday is about 14 hours.
Wow. That's a long time.
And then the end result is about 1 minute of the film from a 14-hour day. Maybe about 2 minutes max.
Yeah.
So,
but then you look at that minute and you figure
it
was all worth
very
it.
Hard. Yeah, the people
Wonderful.
that you see on TV and in films, they work very, very hard for the end result. That is a completed TV show. But I did a little bit on Grimm, and I keep getting asked to do Grimm, but I have a lot of work conflicts. So to be fair, I've been asked to be on Grimm constantly, and I've had to turn them down. So I appreciate them asking. Sorry.
Brandon, I want to thank you so much for having me on the show. I hope this is the first of a series of contacts between us, and you can count on us to cooperate with you, and hopefully we can help each other. And I'm in Minneapolis, so I welcome people to listen to us on biggaynews.com, and I'm going to keep following you, and thank you for taking the initiative to reaching out to us.
All right. Pierre Tardif, the host of Big Gay News from Lavender Media. Very nice to meet you, and thanks so much for coming on Gay News Radio.
All right. Good luck to you, Brandon. Love what you're doing. Keep up the great work.
Cheers, man. You too. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
This is GNR, Gay News Radio.